This is your daily scripture for August 10th. My name is Henry Loke. This is God's Feeding Station. It's an honor to be with you again today. Hope you had a good weekend. Happy Monday. We continue in Paul's letter to Corinth, first letter, in chapter 7. Now, concerning the matters about which you wrote, it is good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman. But because of the temptation to sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife and each woman her own husband. The husband should give to his wife her conjugal rights, and likewise the wife to her husband. For the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement for a limited time, that you may devote yourselves to prayer, and then come together again, so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Now, as a concession, not a command, I say this. I wish that all were as I myself am, but each has his own gift from God, one of one kind and one of another. To the unmarried and the widows I say that it is good for them to remain single as I am. But if they cannot exercise self-control, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to burn with passion. To the married I give this charge, not I, but the Lord. The wife should not separate from her husband, but if she does, she should remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband, and the husband should not divorce his wife. To the rest I say, I, not the Lord, that if any brother has a wife who is an unbeliever, and she consents to live with him, he should not divorce her. If any woman has a husband who is an unbeliever, and he consents to live with her, she should not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband is made holy because of his wife, and the unbelieving wife is made holy because of her husband. Otherwise your children would be unclean, but as it is, they are holy. But if the unbelieving partner separates, let it be so. In such cases, the brother or sister is not enslaved. God has called you to peace. For how do you know, wife, whether you will save your husband? Or how do you know, husband, whether you will save your wife? Only let each person lead the life that the Lord has assigned to him and to which God has called him. This is my rule in all churches. Was anyone at the time of his call already circumcised? Let him not seek to remove the marks of circumcision. Was anyone at the time of his call uncircumcised? Let him not seek circumcision. For neither circumcision counts for anything nor uncircumcision, but keeping the commandments of God. Each one should remain in the condition in which he was called. Were you a bondservant when called? Do not be concerned about it. But if you can gain your freedom, avail yourself of the opportunity. For he who was called in the Lord as a bondservant is a freedman of the Lord. Likewise, he who was free when called is a bondservant of Christ. You were bought with a price. Do not become bondservants of men. So, brothers, in whatever condition each was called, there let him remain with God. Now concerning the betrothed, I have no command from the Lord, but I give my judgment as one who by the Lord's mercy is trustworthy. I think that in view of the present distress, it is good for a person to remain as he is. Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be free. Are you free from a wife? Do not seek a wife. But if you do marry, you have not sinned, and if a betrothed woman marries, she has not sinned. Yet those who marry will have worldly troubles, and I would spare you that. This is what I mean, brothers. The appointed time has grown very short. From now on, let those who have wives live as though they had none, and those who mourn as though they were not mourning, and those who rejoice as though they were not rejoicing, and those who buy as though they had no goods, and those who deal with the world as though they had no dealings with it. For the present form of this world is passing away. I want you to be free from anxieties. The unmarried man is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to please the Lord, but the married man is anxious about worldly things, how to please his wife, and his interests are divided. And the unmarried or betrothed woman is anxious about the things of the Lord, how to be holy in body and spirit. But the married woman is anxious about worldly things, how to please her husband. I say this for your own benefit, not to lay any restraint upon you, but to promote good order and to secure your undivided devotion to the Lord. If anyone thinks that he is not behaving properly toward his betrothed, if his passions are strong, and it has to be, let him do as he wishes. Let them marry. It is no sin. But whoever is firmly established in his heart, being under no necessity, but having his desire under control, and has determined that in his heart to keep her as his betrothed, he will do well. So then he who marries his betrothed does well, and he who refrains from marriage will do even better. A wife is bound to her husband as long as he lives, but if her husband dies, she is free to be married to whom she wishes, only in the Lord. Yet, in my judgment, she is happier if she remains as she is, and I think that I too have the Spirit of God. Okay, we're going to try to work through the whole chapter today, because I think you have to take the whole thing in collectively rather than try to break this up. And so Paul deals with a bunch of things I think that the church has written to him about. And so the first question he deals with is it good for a man to not have sexual relations with a woman? That is not Paul's own conviction. It reads like something out of the letter the church sent him, which is why a lot of modern translations put it in quotations. Some people in the church obviously had swung to an extreme opposite of the immorality Paul just addressed. If unchecked, sexual indulgence was and is a danger, but this group landed on the far other side, total abstinence, even within marriage. And they looked at that as the spiritual path, and Paul corrects this. He says, because of the temptation of sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife, each wife should have her own husband. And then he gets specific about conjugal rights and not withholding one another from each other. And notice how even-handed this is. Paul says the exact same thing about the husband that he says about the wife. And that's really balanced considering the time, right? We know what status women didn't have back in the day. And so this kind of mutual claim wasn't the norm. But Paul says neither spouse gets to decide to withhold from the other. The only exception is a mutually agreed upon pause, maybe to pray, to fast, whatever that may be. But Paul frames the withholding as a spiritual risk rather than a spiritual achievement. So whatever the Corinthians thought they were gaining through abstinence, Paul says, you're more likely opening a door to trouble. He talks about, as a concession, not a command, he says, I say this. Paul is careful to mark the difference between what he says as, I guess, a pastor to the church and what God says. And he says he wishes that all were single, like he is. Right? He's unmarried, and it's worth being careful with the word gift, because he talks about that afterward. Each has his own gift from God, one of one kind, one of another. He's not saying being single is this elite super spiritual thing. And he's not implying that every single person has some special gift that others lack. He's saying singleness is a gift, so is marriage. Neither outranks the other. They're just different. And depending on the person, that's who they're suited for. So Paul just happens to have the first one, of being single. So we don't know if Paul had ever been married. Some speculate that he was a widower or that his wife left him when he became a Christian, but that's all speculation. All we know for sure is that by the time he's writing this, he's single and he's okay with it. He's at peace with it. And then he extends this thinking to others in that situation. He says to the unmarried and the widows, it's good for them to remain single, but if they can't exercise self-control, they should marry. Right? He's not shaming anybody for having the desire. It's a natural thing. It's just counsel. Better to marry than to spend your life wrestling with a struggle you don't have to carry alone. So Paul doesn't give in to extremes here. He doesn't give in to indulgence. He doesn't give in to forced abstinence. Man, I can't talk today. Being married and being single are both legitimate gifts from God, suited for specific people. And neither one is the more spiritual option. It's not about what looks more devoted from the outside. What has God called you to? What has He equipped you to? That's what's important. That's what matters, and that's what we need to follow. Have a great rest of your Monday, and Lord willing, we'll chat tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.